Let's talk with Ben. Ben is calling us from WBYN, Douglasville, Pennsylvania. Hi, Ben. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Doing quite well, thank you. How's it going?
Um, Doing all right. Kind of, I guess, dealing with some issues that hoping you can give me some advice on
Ben, if you've
how
got
to handle it.
issues, you've called the right place.
Okay.
We are issue people,
All right.
and we
Um,
issue advice. How can we help you?
I guess I need to give a little bit of history on it. I'll try and be brief. I'm in real estate and got some properties and wound up going down to Florida to invest outside of my area of where I live,
Mm-hmm.
and got caught up in the old Florida, 30%, and I owned three properties that were owed more on them than what they were worth,
Yeah.
basically. What
Okay.
turns out to be.
All
So, and then, so to try and correct that disaster, I went and invested internationally, and the developer over there wound up walking with the funds for that situation that was supposed to help get me out of the one in Florida.
Okay.
And so now I'm sort of trying to analyze which way to go, because if I sell out everything that's remaining, I still owe more than what that can cover, because in our area also the market has dropped, not as bad as Florida, but it still has dropped. And
So what's the question for us then? How could we help you?
well, it's getting to the point where I guess I'm not sure of what to do, because it's starting to affect the family, and basically I'm going to work when the kids are asleep and coming home when the kids are asleep, and that's no type of life to try and lead them to the Lord or show them that
Yeah.
anything about God or anything. I'm basically incapacitated at that point, because if I'm working that much, they're not seeing me and not knowing me or hearing anything from me other than do this, do
Yeah.
that, when I got 5 minutes in between work and whatever.
Well, so if you are upside down and you owe more, you can't really sell the stuff and then have a debt that isn't secured by property. Is that right?
Yeah, most of the debt is secured by property. Yeah.
So you
But
couldn't sell it, or you could sell it.
I can sell it, but the reason I'm hesitating on doing that is because I'll still owe more than what I can actually let on the job market
So
make
yes.
in a year in order to still remain for paying the remaining debt that would be
Yeah.
left over.
So could you sell one at a time and then pay that little bit of extra debt off and then sell another one? Can you restructure the loans? Have you talked to the banks? Is there any way for a refinance that might help?
I've tried negotiating with them about the modification type
Mm-hmm.
deals, and they're not willing to work with me at this point, because I basically have been, it's
Yeah.
keeping us struggling to keep up with it. And I actually have some of my family members are helping to keep us above board with the deficit on it. So
Why don't
on
you have
paper,
some?
it looks like I'm keeping up with
Yeah.
the bills, but actually, in reality, we're not. So.
Well, why don't you have some guys around you that are helping you decide what to do, that you can count on, that are smart and or experienced?
I guess I have talked to some of them, but I guess it's not really resonating with me,
Yeah.
or I guess I don't know whether the light
Well,
bulb
it's a
Maybe-
tough
off
place.
the other or what.
And
Tough
maybe
place
it's
to
a
be.
hard place to even hear what they have to say. First off, Ben, I just want you to know I appreciate your call. You're not alone.
That's true.
There is a whole nation hearing this call right now, and there are many people that are feeling the pain of what you're feeling as you're talking to us. And I really think the issue is more about loss than really even property. It's really about how are you managing this loss right now, because you're upside down. And what I'm hearing is you've got family members that are starting to bring their funds in to try to keep you afloat. And unfortunately, it may be about loss for you. It may be that there's going to be some cargo that you're going to have to unload so that you can get some semblance of life restored.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking a hit on your life, on your family, and on your extended family to support you. And something's really upside down with that picture. And it may be that in the season of life, God is inviting you into a real painful part of losing and of having to live with what we learn when we have to let things go. And as much as you sound like you're a man that loves to have everything taken care of and responsible and pay everything, it may be about what it feels like to have to just go, wow, I did everything I could and I couldn't do it and I had to let some things go.
Well, and I've had several people who've had to file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And then they feel very guilty about that. And I say, no, that's a law that was passed to allow people to recover from this kind of situation.
Right.
And
You can
it's
still
not
pay
easy.
your debts if you declare bankruptcy.
Yeah, and
You just pay them out over a very extended, manageable length of time. It isn't. There's some people that declare bankruptcy and then they pay 10 cents on the dollar or 1 cent on the dollar. But there are others that say, look, I owe these people money. I'm going to pay it back.
yeah,
But
they may take 10, 15 years to pay it back.
That's right.
But they do it because, but the bankruptcy itself was to be able to get the monkey off their back. And
Yeah.
it's a legitimate option that we hate to look at, but sometimes that's the only thing we can look at. And I've
Yeah.
had to help a couple people deal with that because of what it felt like.
It's real. It
Yeah.
really is real.
And it's tough for guys like us, I mean anybody, but especially I think for men who is the man that's in charge of bringing home the bacon, if that's the system that's set up in your home.
Yeah.
Hard to admit that we made some
Well,
crummy mistakes.
Yeah, and then that affects his ability to do things in the
Yeah.
future. If he lets a couple of properties go, that affects his ability
Yeah.
because it
I'll send
wipes
him-
out his credit.
Send you regret-free living, because I'll tell you, I've made some really dumb decisions in my life, and I could be kicking myself blue every day, but you have to pick up your life. You have to pick it up, and you have to move on.
But for
And
Ben, at the time, those were good decisions.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's that
I mean,
the
that's the
circumstances
truth.
no one
changed,
knew
yeah.
what was going to happen.
No.
Well-
And I've watched some families that have lost their homes.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's painful. It's messy. But what I'm watching is I'm watching them get into someplace that they're renting. I'm watching the family get from, 4,000 square feet to 1,500, and they're spending time together. And all of a sudden, there's this burden that's lifted.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's between the letting go and the burden being lifted, there is some freedom there that I'm
Right.
beginning to observe for
That's
those
right.
that
Exactly.
are willing to walk that.